Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Todd Souter has tried pretty much all of the diets under the sun until he ended up finding temporary success with the ketogenic diet. After suffering from kidney stones in 2019, Todd took more of an interest in human nutrition and strength training. In 2022, Todd had been secretly yo-yo dieting, which led him aggressively cutting from Monday to Friday, then blowing up on the weekends. When Todd and his wife Maki welcomed their first child, Leo, into the world, Todd knew that it was time to make a change. In 2024, Todd suffered a broken toe and was diagnosed with golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, and chronic tendonitis in his left wrist. Todd then hired a personal trainer who specialized in hypertrophy and injury prevention and found success with the carnivore diet, which was the only diet that Todd found to be sustainable. In 2025, Todd became a certified carnivore diet health coach and is currently studying certificate number 4 as a personal trainer in order to help others improve their health and fitness. You can find him on social media, especially on Instagram, and on his awesome YouTube channel at Todd Souter Fitness, where I was recently hosted as a guest on one of his interviews. Todd Souter, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for appearing on our show. I know that you've got a great story to tell here today. We mentioned your YouTube channel, I told you in the interview that we did together that you are a natural host. You did a great job asking questions. I really valued that interview. We recorded that interview the day after I'd gotten back from like a 9-day vacation in Mexico. So it was a little bit painful to go back and watch it to see how quickly my tan has faded. I was so tan for being in the sun for over a week, and now I look at myself and I'm back to polar bear mode. But it was nice to go back and watch and see. At least I was tan at one point.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah, I had a really good time interviewing you. You've had awesome people on the show. I love just kind of going along and listening to some of your interviews. Like I said, you do a great job and you have awesome guests. We mentioned in the introduction that you'd only recently become a personal trainer. So I wanted to ask you, as far as like health and fitness, is that something you've always been interested in and just decided not to necessarily make it a career? Or what has been your interest level in health and fitness through your entire life?
Yeah, I guess I like growing up, I didn't really have a sporting or an athletic kind of background. I was more of a creative kind of person. So I got straight A's in art and English and photography. Everything else I failed, just wasn't really interested. And I think after I had these health issues and these kind of, health scares, and then when you have your own child, it makes you really consider, what am I actually doing? Am I setting a good example for my son? Am I looking after myself? Am I thinking, about my own longevity? I need to think more long term. I've seen so many elder people and parents, and they're just exhausted all the time. They can't get out of a chair unassisted. They haven't got any muscle mass. They've kind of just wasted away. And to me, that's really important. I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, we mentioned in the introduction kind of what the health things started with. You had to deal with. Was that the kidney stones in 2019 where you started to notice poor health?
Yeah, it definitely was a factor. I guess I tried my first diet when I was about 14 or 15. I never really felt comfortable in my own skin. I've always got this little bit of, belly fat. What do I do? And there wasn't really much information back then about dieting. I mean, where I come from, dieting wasn't something that men did. It was something that only girls did. And they sort of worried about. So I thought, okay, I'll start cutting out bread, and I'll hopefully that'll do something. So instead of having 4 pieces of toast in the morning, I would have one and maybe some black coffee. So I figured out coffee does suppress your appetite, so I worked that out fairly early. So drinking way too much coffee, cutting out carbs, it's not a good sustainable strategy, especially when you're in a growth stage at that age. Like, you really should be thinking about, getting the right food in, strength training, trying to build muscle, build strength, because your body's growing. You shouldn't be giving it less nutrients. You should be actually giving it more nutrients, because you're just so active at that age and you realize, you're hungry all the time. So that wasn't an effective strategy. And then I sort of dabbled with the keto diet in 2018, 2019. I was eating just massive, massive quantities of spinach because the carbs are so low. I figured, okay, spinach is great. I'll have spinach smoothies, spinach in my omelette, spinach on everything. And I had these kidney stones, and that was absolutely extraordinary, painful experience. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. That was absolutely horrendous. So after that, I sort of went more of a balanced kind of approach. But I went to the doctor and sort of said, well, I've got these kidney stones. It was awful. I couldn't sleep. It was so painful. And they couldn't give me an answer. It's like, well, what causes it? oh, we don't know. It's basically poor diet, poor lifestyle. It's like, well, that doesn't really help me much. So I think people have to really take it upon themselves to, look after their own health. Like, get on YouTube, get on Google, and just really kind of research it as much as you can.
Man, anytime I hear kidney stones, the first thing I start to think about is spinach. It's just the one food. I don't tell anybody anything regarding their diet as far as like foods they can have or can't have. If you want to have cookies, if you want to drink milk, like whatever, I don't care. Spinach is the one. It's just the one thing that I tell people, don't even mess with it. Don't have the salads, don't put it in your smoothie, especially like there's other options that you can have besides spinach. There's so many other things that can give you that crunch. If you want a salad, go for it. Choose a different kind of leaf because spinach can be just so problematic. And it sounds like it definitely was for you.
Yep, it was awful. Yeah, as I said, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It was awful.
Wow. Yeah, that's terrible. Okay, going back to what you mentioned before, where you weren't as familiar with dieting, it wasn't something that men in your country did a lot of, and so you kind of intuitively did what most people would do, and especially this time of year. It's January. A lot of people are making resolutions when we're recording this episode, and they will think, okay, well, I need to eat less and I need to move more. I need to have less calories. I can reduce things, and then I need to exercise more. And people don't often understand or equate what that does down the road. Did you have any kind of a bounce back after doing a calorie deprived kind of a diet, especially at such a young age?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sitting in class and studying, I just had no energy. I was like falling asleep in class and drinking lots and lots of coffee. So that was, not the right strategy. But unfortunately, at that time, there wasn't a lot of information available. It was kind of like, maybe fitness or bodybuilding magazines. That was about it. The internet was still in its early kind of infancy back then. But I think now, this time of year, as you said, everyone makes New Year's resolutions. They end up joining the gym. And often what I see is people they don't have realistic expectations. And I think making small changes that you can sustain, that's the way to go. So don't cut out all your carbs, do lots of cardio, go to the gym 6 days a week. Like, you might be able to do that for a couple of weeks. Then after that, you're going to be exhausted. So maybe just start strength training one or two times a week. Just be consistent and be kind to yourself, be realistic, and you kind of got to think long term and think of it as an identity shift. Like, I'm becoming a healthier person, becoming a more active person. This is the person that I want to be. And unfortunately, it's one of those things you just got to kind of keep chipping away at it, and eventually, you'll get there.
That's great advice. No, I love that. What you're describing and what your advice is kind of like exactly the opposite of what most people do as far as the effect goes, because eating less and moving more, like, yes, initially that will work, but it will make you more efficient. And we hear that term and like, oh, good, I want to be efficient. Like, well, if you're trying to burn off excess fuel, like if you had a car and you had excess fuel, you wanted to get rid of it, you would want to be inefficient. You'd want to burn as many calories as you possibly could. And again, eating less, moving more causes people to be more efficient. They start burning less and less calories all the time, which then causes that bounce back. What you're describing as far as like infrequent, but a good strength training program 1 to 2 times a week, that causes your body to be inefficient. It causes your calorie burn to increase over time so that you're burning more calories all the time. So the after effect is just so different of what you're recommending.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people expect weight loss to be rapid and to suddenly be shredded within a few weeks, and it doesn't really work that way. It might take 6 months. It could take up to a year. I mean, I don't want to discourage anyone, but you've got to kind of look at it as a project and think long term, and don't worry so much about the scale weight. That is going to fluctuate, because what I found with carnivore especially, you lose body fat, but you gain muscle mass. So your scale weight might not fluctuate that much, but visually in the mirror, you think, okay, I've got a bit more ab definition now, and my strength is going up to the gym. That's an awesome place to be at.
Yeah, totally. No, it's so nice to have something like a body fat scale. I just started with some new clients this last week, and we did our first initial weigh-in, or I guess their second weigh-in after their first week, and both of them ended up gaining a little bit of weight. But when you looked at the numbers, their fat was down and their muscle mass was up, because we talked about strength training infrequently and talked about eating more protein and reducing sugar as a first step. And that's exactly what it caused. If they would have only gone by the scale, they would have been quite disappointed and thought they were going backwards. So I really love that. You discovered the ketogenic diet about the same time that I did, around 2018 was kind of the first time I really heard about it. And I wouldn't say it was exactly mainstream. It was definitely getting a little bit more popular at the time. But do you remember how it was that you learned about a ketogenic diet and what made you think that would be a good idea?
Yeah, I remember when I was a bit younger, there was a a TV program in Australia. It's called Current Affair, and they looked at people rapidly losing weight, and they had this drastic before and after pictures, and they basically cut out carbohydrates, and there was nutritionists talking about it. Well, that's not healthy. You need a balance of, grains, fiber, vegetables, and fruit, and this other stuff. And it's like, well, they try to like scare people, maybe trying to say, well, this is dangerous, don't do it. But you have this massive kind of body transformation. I thought that was in the back of my mind. A friend at work had done the ketogenic diet, and he was very, very lean, but almost looked a little bit skeletal, sort of in the face, like very, very gaunt. And I thought that's probably a little bit too lean, but it is effective. But basically, I thought that's easy because you don't need to track anything. You just eat, basically bacon, eggs, cheese, meat, a little bit of low carbohydrate vegetables. I thought, yeah, I can do that. So it definitely does work. But I find as soon as you go off it, you regain the weight because you regain the water weight because you're introducing carbohydrates back in, and carbohydrates help you store water. It's kind of like a sponge. So yeah, it definitely does work. But I think you've got to kind of do some research about it first and really understand what's going on.
Yeah, especially if you're going to go out and consume bucket loads of spinach and end up with kidney stones like you did. Okay, yeah. Say the name of that TV program again.
It was called A Current Affair. I'm not sure if it's still on. I don't really watch TV anymore, but yeah, it's sort of on in Australia after the news, so about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Is it pretty popular?
I think it used to be. Yeah, definitely.
I just sounds really familiar. I don't think you're the first person to tell me specifically either about that show or even that specific episode. Do you know whether that specific episode was very influential for other people to, yeah, maybe they were trying to, scare people, but also, by bringing it up, maybe it got people interested in trying something different?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't come across it, but I'm sure it'd be on YouTube somewhere. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, that's very interesting. I really don't feel like you're the first person that told me about that episode specifically. So, yeah, interesting. So you decided to try keto. You're not, overly scared by it. You did some research about it. Started to do it yourself. The health issues didn't quite end. Of course, most people listening hopefully know, as we're talking about spinach, we're talking specifically about a compound in spinach called oxalate or oxalic acid that can really build up and cause a lot of damage in people. You still had other health issues that you were dealing with even after that. So what did you notice as far as the benefits of going to keto? And then tell us about what things actually didn't really change enough until later on.
Yeah, I definitely noticed some rapid weight loss. I guess you're losing water weight because you're cutting out carbs fairly quickly. So that can be very motivating for people. So I feel as I start taking more clients, I know that's going to be a useful strategy because people like to see that initial weight loss. They go, oh, I've lost a bit of weight. I've got a bit more ab definition. This is the way to go. I can do this. So I think for most people, keto does work. Carnivore does work really well. But as far as the benefits, definitely less hunger. Like I'm definitely way less hungry and actually went down to one meal a day. I just had like a really massive omelette, lots of eggs, lots of bacon, lots of protein, cheese. It's definitely a very sustainable diet, provided you cut out the spinach. I wouldn't recommend everyone have spinach, but it does work. And going down to one meal a day, that's easy to fit in most people's schedules because everyone's busy, everyone has jobs and other commitments. Maybe they have a family to look after, they've got a partner. It definitely does fit in most people's schedules.
Yeah, got it. We mentioned you having your first child in 2022, and also after that, you had to deal with a lot of tendonitis and related kind of inflammation type issues. Do you know what was going on with that? What the cause of that was?
I think part of it was just the stress of being a new parent because you just don't know what to expect, and suddenly, I was just sort of looking down at my son and thinking, wow, I've got a little person looking up at me. I'm responsible, for this guy now. It's like, what am I really doing? And part of, the stress of being a parent, obviously your energy is going to be low. You're going to be sleep deprived. You're going to have massive cravings. You're going to be hungry all the time. So I think just navigating that and kind of like secretly eating junk food when I knew that's not going to be good for me. That's not going to give me the energy that I need to get through the day. So I think that was part of it, and maybe looking back, feeling guilty about doing that. So like, going to processed food to make myself feel better or, to get through a tough day. So I sympathize with people. I know it's really difficult, but unfortunately we're eating these types of foods that are designed to get you hooked, designed to get you to eat as much as possible. So looking at it from that point of view, I think I was probably being too hard on myself, probably expecting too much of myself and expecting to know how to be, a great dad, a great parent, and I really didn't know what I was doing. You got to kind of figure it out as you go, do some research, read some books if you can. Um, I think just be kind to yourself and don't expect, to be perfect at everything. I think that's not realistic.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, we mentioned in the introduction you making the decision to hire a personal trainer who specializes in a few different things. Now, as I'm asking you about this personal trainer, I need you to understand, I want you to lavish praise on personal trainers as much as you possibly can, because this benefits all of us as personal trainers. So as you're talking about this guy, you got to just over the top, extravagant praise for this person. But tell us a little bit about the decision of, deciding to hire a trainer. What was in your mind about maybe like what you thought it was going to be versus what it actually was, and why was that such a positive step for you?
Yeah, definitely. Like I had been strength training a couple of days a week. That was kind of as much as my recovery would allow, but I hadn't been with a trainer before. I hadn't done any research. I was kind of looking at influencers on YouTube. I won't name any names. I don't want people to go to the wrong path, but the guy I was following was promoting intermittent fasting, which I think there are a lot of benefits and just lifting heavy 2 times a week. I thought, yeah, I can do that. That sounds makes sense because I figured, being a bit younger, a little bit not as wise as I am now, I figured, okay, heavier is better. I'm going to build muscle. I'm going to get, shredded and jacked at the same time. But unfortunately, that led to a lot of injuries, not using correct form. So I see a lot of values in trainers as far as, talking through what are your goals, what do you want to achieve, and really starting from that point. What is your why do you want to do this, why do you want to lose weight, why do you want to get strong, and really having that mindset to start with. That's really, really essential. And then looking at your programming, maybe you're looking at 2 or 3 days a week of strength training. So a trainer would talk you through the exercises, help build confidence, and show you what not to do so that not to get injured. I'd never considered that part of it before. So I worked with the trainer for about a year. His name's Kane Takos, amazing trainer. He's 26, but he's already been training people for like 9, 10 years. Very, very knowledgeable. They basically talked about, as you go to the negative part of the movement, the eccentric, try to slow down the weight, control the weight, and what would happen is naturally you would need to decrease the weight because it's actually hard to control heavy weights. Heavier weights, you got to kind of bounce or jerk them to get them up, and that can lead to a lot of injuries, a lot of other issues. So definitely lowering the weight, focusing on good form, being explosive on the way up, but controlling the weight on the way down. And since I've been working with this guy, Kane, I've had no injuries and my strength has been going up naturally each week. And just being injury free, like the cost of having an injury and having physio, it's absolutely outrageous, and it's just not worth getting injured in my point of view.
It's the number one priority. I'm so glad you brought that up. Like if a program is not safe, what are you doing? Don't do it. Like it doesn't matter if it's effective in the short term. Like when it puts you out, you're going to be out for a while and you're going to lose all the progress that you made. And maybe this will match your experience. It certainly was my experience. And it seems like it is with the trainer that you're talking about here. When I started personal training almost 2 decades ago, I thought I was going to be the accelerator. I thought I was going to be the one cracking the whip and motivating you. And we're going to do more and give me another 5 reps and all this stuff. And I learned fairly quickly, like I'm actually the brake pedal. I'm not the accelerator, I'm the brake pedal, trying to get people to slow down, whether that's in a lift to move slower, like you said, or to hold your horses. And like you talked about with mindset, like you're not going to accomplish this overnight. Like easy, like take it easy. We're going to get through this. Let's make sure your form is good. Let's make sure this is safe. It's way more kind of like slowing people down than it is like trying to ramp people up.
Yeah, exactly. And I see it all the time. I see these young guys, they hit the gym, they're doing, bench press Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they're just trying to basically put as much weight on the bar as possible and not using full range of motion. I just can't watch them. It's like I know something's going to happen down the track, and it's just people putting stuff on Instagram. They got to sort of realize you have a bit of responsibility. Like you got to kind of really phrase it like I'm doing this for this particular reason. This is why I'm doing it, so that people don't get injured. Because I think copying people off social media can backfire. You got to be really careful who you're following.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that injury can come now by doing too much weight, or it can come in 10 years or 20 years when your priorities are completely different. Some of that overworking in your younger life can come back to bite you even later on, whether you directly attribute that to that or not. So I think that's really, really important. And you decided, after going through the personal training thing, that you were going to become a personal trainer yourself. Did that mean a career change for you? Or is it something that you more are looking to do kind of on the side?
It's something I've been thinking about for a while. So I worked in specialty coffee since 2011 in Melbourne, and initially the learning curve in that career, it's very, very steep, and you just really don't know what you're doing, and it's kind of like, every day kind of working on it a little bit. Like, I was a little bit maybe obsessive compulsive disorder about it, so like really looking at the finer details, and like looking at what separates a good barista from a great barista. I did 5 years of barista competitions back to back. I was very, very shy and very nervous when I started hospitality, so I think having those presentation skills, that's really important. First year I competed, I just got up on stage, I just started sweating. I didn't know what to do. I sort of had a mental blank. So it was really scary. But I think it does help, and does help you be a better communicator, making connections in your industry. That's also really important. Getting to know people and getting to know their story. That's all part of it. And I think after a while, 5, 10 years working in the coffee industry, it's like I'm not really sure if I'm going to learn a whole lot more. So around 2022, I started thinking about health and fitness, and just had first child. It's like, okay, I need to get stronger in the gym. I need to lose a bit of body fat. What do I do? So I think having that certification, you learn so much in a very short amount of time. So yeah, I think the fitness industry is amazing. Obviously, there's good and bad components, but it's like that in any industry. But now I'm more motivated to help people, and help people learn from my mistakes that I've made, and help them improve their health and fitness that way.
Okay, well, the coffee thing explains all the beautiful coffee pictures you have a little bit further back in your Instagram feed if you scroll through everything. I've had Dr. Peter Bruckner. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's a low carb kind of doctor in Australia as well. Come to America and tell us our coffee is quote unquote dishwater compared to how it is in Melbourne. He says that the coffee is unmatched in Melbourne than it is anywhere else, especially around us here in America. Is that true?
Oh, we're pretty lucky. I've had great coffee all over the world. Like, I've had great coffee in Japan, Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmania. Like, lots of great places to have coffee. Like, I've had great coffee in Houston. Like, there's great coffee everywhere. It's just a matter of doing some research, finding out where the best shops are. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Getting back to personal training, you ended up getting multiple certifications. Which certifications did you get? I saw the certifications on your Instagram feed. What was the main company where you got those?
There's a company in Australia based in New South Wales called Clean Health, and I was following the people that are involved with that. So you had people like Lane Norton. You've got people, I can't remember his name, but there's a gentleman who's a professor, and he's done this sort of studies on rapid fat loss and higher protein intake diet, so protein focused diet, and showing consistently that these people lose body fat and build muscle at the same time. Bill Campbell is his name. Maybe you've heard of him, but he's involved with Clean Health as well. And Clean Health is now part of a bigger company called Vast Fitness. So my course is through Vast Fitness. I did my certificate 3 in 2025, and now I'm halfway through my certificate 4. And then once that's done, I can then coach people one-on-one in the weight room.
Excellent. Oh, that's super cool. Congratulations. With any certification, there's going to be, most of the principles, you're kind of going to agree with, and there's other things that you may or may not agree with, or you may actively disagree with. Are there any things that you went through in your certifications that you're like, yeah, I don't know if that's exactly true or not?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. If you're a personal trainer, like you're not allowed to recommend a particular diet or a particular way of eating to people. It's more behavioral based. So if someone has a problem with, say, chocolate, okay, maybe don't bring chocolate into the house. Maybe put it up high in the cupboard where you know it's not there. Don't leave it lying around the table if you're trying to maintain a calorie deficit. That's just not gonna work. Um, I was really looking forward to the nutrition part of my course, but unfortunately, it is very kind of generic and kind of dry, because the recommendations, they don't want to, say people, hey, do this diet, and they have an allergy, for example. I think it's just sort of to cover everyone and make sure people can't be sued and that sort of stuff. So from a legal perspective, I do see that making sense. But the recommendations, they're pretty generic. They're pretty like a much a balanced diet, but they do acknowledge low carb and ketogenic is there as an option, but it really depends on the client and what they want to achieve, which I support. So I've actually done a carnivore diet health certification separately, in my spare time. That was with a company called Naturalistico, and that went through all different types of low carb, keto, carnivore kind of style diets, and really working with the client. What do you want to do, and then sort of working with them that way. So it's a bit more collaborative that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you asked me about this on your show, so I'm going to kind of ask you to contrast the two. Like you just mentioned behavior change and behavior coaching, and that's the way most nutrition certifications really are, versus like a carnivore certification and working with somebody. It just seems to be I mean, in my opinion, it's way simpler. There's way less touch points you need with somebody. Maybe you can get somebody on like once a month for a while if they've got continued questions or they're evolving. But generally speaking, people don't need tons and tons and tons of coaching on a carnivore diet. It just simplifies everything. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like even just recommending people, just to control the portions of their carbs that they're having. So I helped a friend recently lose 3 kilos over a couple of weeks just by thinking about the size of your palm. That's a serving of protein. So if you can get in with each meal 2 palms worth of protein, so that much worth of protein, a fistful of veggies or a fistful of carbs, so that amount. So everyone is a little bit different. So the size of your hand is going to help determine how much energy your body requires. So just using that method, 3 meals a day, and help my friend lose 3 kilos in a couple of weeks because there's no tracking, there's no measuring. It's really just thinking about the portion size, keep it protein focused, and reduce the amount of carbs. You are going to naturally lose weight. Yeah, it's interesting because people kind of think, oh, I don't want to measure everything, I don't want to track. That's going to give them an additional kind of stress. And modern life is stressful enough as it is. People don't want additional things to have to work on and put numbers in their phone and that sort of stuff. So it is difficult, but there's definitely ways around it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, very well explained. Let's go back just a little bit. When was the first time you even heard about a carnivore diet? You were already kind of doing low carb and keto and that sort of thing. When did you first hear about a carnivore diet? What did you think when you heard about it?
Yeah, there was that clip of Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan that kind of blew up and went viral. That was around 2022, 2023. It was all over YouTube and Instagram. People were resharing and saying, listen to this guy. This sounds ridiculous. But I was thinking about the way Jordan Peterson spoke. He's obviously highly intelligent, highly educated guy. Seems like he's got everything together. He's like well presented. I thought, okay, maybe there's something in this. Growing up, we didn't eat red meat. It was mostly chicken, fish, carbs, and veggies. That was essentially our diet. Mum is the only one that cooks in the family. She doesn't like red meat. She just can't stand it. So we just never ate red meat growing up. So I assumed it was bad for you. I assumed red meat causes cancer and diabetes and all this sort of stuff that we've been programmed with. And I know now that that's not true. So I didn't actually try my first steak until January last year. And I thought,
Wow.
wow, I've been missing out on this for so long. Like,
Oh my goodness.
why have I been doing this? I thought, this is amazing. And I was looking at people doing carnivore, and they're all highly efficient, highly intelligent, sort of high functioning individuals. Like, they're getting a lot of stuff done. Maybe they're just having 1 or 2 meals. And I thought, this is what I need because I've got so much work to do. I need to study. I've got a child to look after. I thought this could be a good little productivity hack as well. And these guys were like, they were muscular, but they were shredded as well, which is what everyone wants. So I thought, okay, maybe this is the way to go. But definitely since eating more steak, more red meat, more whole eggs, it's just, I can't believe how good I feel. And it's really hard to explain to people. You want to kind of tell everyone, hey, this is the way to do it. But unfortunately, everyone's been brainwashed or just been conditioned for so long that red meat is somehow bad for you. Whole eggs somehow increase your cholesterol, and that's a bad thing, which I know now that's not correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we love watching those videos of like the former vegan or vegetarian take their first bite of a steak and they almost like have this like religious moment. It sounds like that's very similar to what you did. I hope somebody recorded it for you.
I couldn't believe it. I was talking to a friend about it at work, and they said, "Oh yeah, you just need to get a cast iron pan. Don't use Teflon. Make sure that the pan is screaming hot. Throw the steak on. Put some butter in there, a bit of salt, and it's like it's so easy and it's just so time saving." Super delicious. Like, you're just getting so much nutrients from red meat. I'm like, why have I been doing this to myself for so long? And like, couldn't believe how good it tasted. So I think you get to the point where you really start to listen to your own body. Your body's saying, hey, you need more of this. This is what you should be focusing, your meals around.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so everybody tends to feel really good physically. Maybe they lose fat or whatever, their energy goes up. Tell us what happened to you mentally. Did you notice any benefits there?
Yeah, I just noticed I could sit down and study. Before I was a little bit, I was like ADD or ADHD. I just couldn't focus. Like even in school, I was that one kid who was easily distracted, can't complete tasks on time, can't focus, can't you know retell, rephrase information that's delivered. I was like, couldn't do any of that stuff. And as soon as I cut out carbs, went more steak, red meat, eggs, bacon, I just I got halfway through my course. I'm like, I'm just able to get so much work done. Like, this is incredible. I'm just going to stay, keep doing this.
Yeah, that's very common to hear those benefits, which is great. Tell us about a normal day in the life of eating for you. And then also, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about, eating this way within a family, with kids and wife and all this stuff, like how that's been.
Sure. So at the moment, I normally would do 2 meals a day. So probably about a kilo of beef mince. So just fatty beef mince, have that split up into two portions, make that into like little burger patties, cook some fried eggs in butter, have that on top. I used to have a lot of bacon. I'm trying to do 30 days without bacon. So I'm on day 4 of cutting out bacon to sort of see how it feels, if that has any benefits or not. Fatty fish a couple of times a week. So like wild caught fish, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, if I have any kind of cravings. So I think that has a lot of benefits as well. But usually it's just 2 meals. If I'm really, really busy, I might go down to 1 meal, but I think 2 meals, just lunch and dinner, works really well for me. So just beef, butter, bacon, eggs, and fish. As far as navigating family times, it's all about communication. Just sort of ask my wife, would you like to use the kitchen? Should I use it first? What would you like to do? My son seems to naturally want what my wife is having as well. So she's from Japan. She'll have a lot of like rice and noodles and fish usually, and my son seems to want to have what she's having. I have given him a little bit of steak. He really, really liked it. He really enjoyed it. So I think there's definitely, potential for him to eat more red meat, more eggs as he gets older. I think that's really important for his development. But yeah, end of the day, it's all about being organized. And the thing with carnivore, it's so easy to prepare. Like, you're basically going to have maybe boiled eggs ready to go in the fridge. You cook up your beef mince, you cook up your steak. You've got a meal ready in about 5-10 minutes. It's pretty easy. Like, looking back, I was just hungry all the time on my old diet and just preparing meals all the time. I was probably eating 5-6 times a day, constantly hungry, constantly had cravings, and I was just amazed I couldn't get any work done. So it's like, yeah, going carnivore's made life a whole lot simpler and easier.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. That's great. Yeah, so I'm thinking about your child, and even if he stays on a mixed diet and tends towards some of the stuff your wife is eating, which is totally fine, just the difference of him at least having access to red meat will be totally different for his energy and schoolwork and all the stuff that you and I probably struggled with by reducing it by so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find with kids, like, you can't always tell them what to do, because my son's at an age where he doesn't want to listen. He sort of started answering back. He's 4 years old now. He's sort of become like a small teenager. Um, I think sometimes actions speak louder than words. So if I'm eating steak and eggs, he'll kind of think, okay, you're eating that again. Why are you eating that? And he'll sort of ask me, why are you eating this again, Papa? It's like, well, I feel really good eating this. I find it gives me energy. It's really delicious. He goes, oh, can I try a bit? And I think that's the way to do it. Yeah, definitely they have it there as an option. But I think he's at an age where he's just kind of doing his own thing. He's eating what he likes, and I'm okay with that as long as it's there as an option. We don't allow sugar or any ultra processed food in the house, because we'll know he'll go for it and then he'll want more. He's had chocolate once and he threw a huge tantrum when he realized there was no more chocolate to be eaten, and it was just like, that's scary. It's like a demonic possession. We don't want to go through that experience again, so we just don't bring sugar into the house. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah, no, that's great strategy and really good advice for parents out there. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit on your show as well. You started carnivore in 2025, which means less than 1 year. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, I'm coming up on 7 years, and I'm not 100% strict, but I'd say like 95. I'm fairly strict. If I go off, things really tend to grab me. I do feel a bit of like food addiction, sugar addiction, whatever kind of grab me, and I have a harder time getting it out. So it's better for me to be a little bit more on the strict side. And I think you mentioned a little bit on your show as well that sugar addiction can be a big thing. And if you cheat a little, it's just inconvenient. You just feel hungry all the time and kind of feel worse. And we talked a little bit about the trend that you and I have been noticing in the carnivore space. This isn't everybody, but there have been some big time influencers who have a big following who have been, using a carnivore diet to, bring people to their platforms. And now they've come out and said, like, nope, actually, carnivore causes all these problems, and I quit, and you should quit too. And it seems like this big kind of noisy thing out there. What have been your thoughts on that kind of a movement? Again, I know it's probably not as big as I think it is, and I shouldn't call it a movement. It's probably just a handful of people, but again, it tends to be people that have lots of followers and people that have known them and followed their content for a long time. Do you have any thoughts on that particular way of messaging as far as a carnivore diet, or is it creating a lot of confusion?
Yeah, definitely. It is creating some confusion. I was initially very confused when I heard that. Well, that doesn't make sense. You've cut out carbs, you feel amazing. Now you're saying you're adding carbs back in because you can. I don't know. I don't really understand it at the time. I think end of the day, each to their own. Everyone is a little bit different. And I think if we look back at primitive man, primitive woman, it would have been essentially fatty red meat, organ meat, and maybe once or twice a year there were some blueberries on the tree. And I think the idea of this kind of carb addiction that everyone has, maybe it's a survival mechanism. Maybe we're meant to eat the blueberries on the tree to help us put on body fat so we survive winter and survive times when food isn't as plentiful. Maybe that's part of the reason. But the problem with ultra processed food is you just don't know when to stop. There's no satiety signal that you get from eggs and red meat. So I think people have to be really mindful of that. Like these are basically food products. They're not actually food. They're designed to eat, get you to eat as much as you possibly can to increase their profit margin. And at the end of the day, people just want to make money off these things. And I think you really got to look at, your health. How do you feel eating these types of foods? I have heard of some people adding in carbs in on carnivore because maybe they've been doing carnivore for 2 or 3 years and their pancreas isn't producing insulin anymore. I've had this lazy pancreas theory. Maybe your body isn't used to producing insulin, so it kind of like shuts down. People experiencing body pain as a result of that, and they're adding in carbs to combat that in some way. I'm not sure. It's interesting. I think we need to do more research about it. But I think if you're an influencer or you're on social media, you're telling people what to do, you're giving advice, you need to be really, really careful what you're saying and say why you're doing it, how are you doing it. It has to be for a specific reason. Otherwise, people get confused and they're not really sure what's going on. There's so many influencers I can think of that are just spreading the wrong advice. It's actually creating more harm than good.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, one thing that you said in there I think is so important, and I just really want to emphasize that. When you said like you find berries and it's occasional, it's like 1 or 2 times a year. Like if I go outside right now, I'm in the northern hemisphere. It is 5 degrees Celsius. It's in the 30s in Fahrenheit. There's no berries. I don't find berries. I'm not going to see them even when it's kind of getting closer to summer because they need to grow. And once they grow and, you're competing against other animals and other creatures. And like I walk around my neighborhood and even like people that cultivate gardens, it's not like you don't get endless amounts of calories for months and months and months and months. You get a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. So for you, you're living in the southern hemisphere. Does it ever strike you, like even now, like things are growing, there's plants everywhere, there's a large diversity. Does it ever just strike you like how little actual plant food is out there for you to eat if you were just to like say, hey, I'm going to live on the land and eat as many plants as I possibly can? Does it ever just strike you how like impossible that would be?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm living in Melbourne, I live in the city. I've never seen a fruit or a vegetable growing in Melbourne. I used to live in Tasmania. I have seen strawberry like plants, like strawberries growing on the tree and blueberries, but again, very, very small amount, very specific time of the year. It wasn't like an everyday occurrence. And the fact that you can go to the supermarket now, fruits and vegetables are there 365 days a year, and everyone's saying you need 5 servings of fruit and veg every day. I just feel like that's marketing. It's not actually, helpful. It's not, doesn't fit our biology by any means. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I already knew that at least around here, I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, but around me, apples are picked up to and including 1 year before you even see them at the store. And I finally just recently saw a commercial for one of these companies that they put all these fruits in a silo and mix this like toxic mixture of gas that like keeps the apples from ripening. It stops their ripening enzyme so that they can store endless amounts of apples. And by the time you see it at the grocery store, it's already been over a year that it's even been picked. And I don't think many people consider that. I don't, necessarily go around bashing fruits and vegetables for everybody, but it's just something to consider that we're not even talking about ultra processed food. Like you mentioned early in this conversation, we're talking, you know, whole foods, fruits and vegetables, and they're not what people think they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it goes back to that marketing, that kind of brainwash narrative. We've all been told get your 5 serves of fruit and vegetables every day. I've learned since some countries it's 7, some countries it's 3, some countries it's 5. Like this idea, we need 5 servings. Like, is that just because we've got 5, digits on our hand? Like, it's ridiculous. And to be honest, when I turned 35, and as soon as I cut, like, I was getting these like aches and pains when I wake up in the morning. I thought, am I just getting old? Is this part of aging? And since cutting out the plants, I don't have any aches and pains anymore. I don't have any more joint pain. I can sleep a lot better. So yeah, it's interesting. People, I think, should experiment and be open to learning about what these are actually doing to our body and how they actually make you feel.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we mentioned it on your show as well that like anything that you would associate with getting old, it very much could be plants and vegetables in particular. So yeah, the 5 serving thing will be interesting. United States just came out with our new nutritional guidelines, and fruit is reduced. They recommend 2 to 3 servings a day. Vegetables are still up there, 3 to 4 servings a day. It's definitely lower than what it was before. And now in the top left corner is a picture of a big old steak, which is kind of cool. Like if you read the guidelines, not much has really changed, but I wonder if that visual will help people understand that yeah, you probably don't need these as much as you think you did. So hopefully there's some progress there. I did want to wrap up with talking about something that you've learned as far as personal training and putting together a training program for somebody. What are some of the variables that you kind of think about when you're trying to put together a good program for somebody? What are some of the things that you really prioritize, and some of the things that maybe people over prioritize when they're setting up a fitness program?
Definitely, yeah. I've done a few health consultations with different people and, interviewing people as part of my course and sort of asking them, what would you like to do? Because everyone is so different. Everyone has different goals. Everyone has different amount of time available. So I think starting with, what do you want to achieve? Maybe it's fat loss. Maybe it's a body recomposition. Maybe I just want to build muscle. I think you've got to kind of start there and look at, again, it goes back to the mindset, why are you doing this? Like, what is it that you want to achieve? And I think looking at, how many days can you commit to going to the gym consistently? And I think most people, they're not going to say 6. They're going to say, oh, maybe 1 or 2. It's like, okay, let's start from that and just be consistent. I think tracking your workouts is really, really important because I see so many people at the gym that's kind of wandering around. Maybe they're chatting with someone. They're kind of like going through the motions. They're not really training. You're at the gym to train. You're at the gym for a reason. And especially if you're time poor, you don't have much time available. Maybe you've got a full-time job, you've got other responsibilities. Being really strategic with the time in the gym is really important. And maybe you're in the gym for maybe 45 minutes, an hour max. I think you don't need to be there for hours and hours like a professional bodybuilder. Most people just want to get a bit stronger, just improve their health. Maybe 45 minutes to an hour is fine, 2 to 3 times a week. And I think look at prioritizing whole foods, reducing carbohydrates, reducing sugar, obviously cutting out ultra processed foods or even lowering them if you can, if you're not ready to commit fully. You've got to meet people where they're at sometimes. I think having that collaborative approach, that's really helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And we've already kind of alluded to this in the conversation earlier. And you mentioned being really time efficient in the gym, but I'm assuming that for you means more people doing more strength training and less of the classic, like quote unquote, kind of cardio training.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if you're just walking a bit every day, maybe you get your 8, 10,000 steps in, like just walking, that has so many more benefits than doing cardio. I find cardio just to be really boring and time consuming. I'm sure most people would agree with it. They're not doing it because they want to, they're doing it because they think they should do it. I think you've got to look at it from that angle, prioritize strength training, absolutely. And unfortunately, as you get older, it's harder and harder to build muscle mass. I'm sure you've encountered this with working with so many people. You get to 30, I think things do start to change a little bit in your body. You kind of got to up your protein, maybe train a bit smarter, be a bit more strategic. But if you're there even for half an hour, 45 minutes, you can get so much done. It's just about being focusing on compound movements, lifting with good form, progressive overload. Like it's not that complicated. I think people make it deliberately overcomplicate it to sell programs. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something I notice in our field that people are trying to overcomplicate things. I'm constantly trying to tell people like, look, it's not that sexy. You said like 3 or 4 things in the advice that you were giving, like eat whole foods, lift heavy, prioritize that, do it safely. Like that's not that many things and it's not that complicated. It's just about executing a smart plan and doing it over and over and over to see those consistent results. So I really love that. Last question, like favorite exercise of yours personally, like desert island, you could do one exercise for the rest of your life. What would you choose?
I think incline press with dumbbell. I think that's by far my favorite exercise. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really good choice. I think I take deadlift, but that's definitely pretty close. So I really love that. This has been an awesome conversation, Todd. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and your journey, and I know our audience will find this really, really helpful as well. Where can people go to find you and connect with you and your work, and where can people find your YouTube channel, which is awesome?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've actually changed it to Todd Souter Health. It's not Todd Souter Fitness anymore. So Todd Souter Health on YouTube and Todd Souter Health on Instagram as well.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we get that changed in the introduction and in your show notes so that people can go and find that. But yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And again, thank you for your journey through health and, finding low carbohydrate and eventually carnivore diets and, being willing to, change up what you're doing day to day to be able to help people, I think is really powerful. I don't know of many other topics that get this many people this excited to go and share a message, and you're using the resources that you have to be able to do that. So really appreciate you, Todd. And thank you for hosting me on your show. And thank you for being on our show today. We really, really appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Casey. Yeah, it was a great opportunity. Thank you again. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, of course. This is a really great conversation. I really appreciate you. So thanks again. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.